Near-death experience of three scientists. What did they see in the afterlife? Welcome to the Mo channel. Since ancient times, people still discuss if the heaven existed or not, what life after death would be like. If heaven was real, how wonderful that place was. Is it like what it is described in legends or religions? So now, let's find out together. Currently, no matter how brilliant scientific achievements are, whether robots can do many jobs to replace humans, and how smart the artificial intelligence is, scientists are still struggling to find the answer to the existence or not of the land called heaven, and the mysteries of life in the afterlife have consumed a lot of mankind's ink. In that situation, the world has appeared near-death appearances and approached paradise to truth of today's scientists, which have partly revealed the mystery of this surreal world. They are scientists who have expertise in different fields. They absolutely will not arbitrarily give affirmation or negation to any phenomenon without authentic evidence. Therefore, their statements on these topics have a very high credibility. Here are three such cases. The first case is meeting death hypothesis and diving deep in Dr. Larry Woods' near-death experience. This year, Dr. Larry Woods is over 70 years old, living with his wife in Sugar Land City, Texas State, the U.S. For the rest of his life, he will never forget the event on December 23, 1966, when he was 18 and driving home with his 16-year-old sister, Sue. They collided with an illegally parked car. While Sue escaped relatively unscathed, Dr. Woods' larynx and vocal cords were lost. He also broke several bones and his nose was ripped off. The injury was so severe that the resident medical staff and the scene confirmed that he died. Talking to MC Roth on the It's Supernatural show, Dr. Larry said that when the accident happened, he felt a lot of pain, but then all pain disappeared when his show left his party. He told us, "It seems that I have reached the heaven. Dying is just like taking your clothes off and just laying them aside. I stepped out this body, this suit, and then was lifted up to the top of my car, and my whole life just spot before my eyes in just an instant. Then I was caught in a swollen, massive funnel shaped cloud that grew brighter. Then this cloud opened up, and I saw this giant golden statue line suspended in space that the Bible calls heaven." At that place, Dr. Larry was witnessed by a 70-foot angel who stood in front of gates that were 500 miles wide, had a sword, and beautiful gold-spoon hair. And there was an angel inside of the city that was holding some books. There was some exchange between the two angels, and then Dr. Larry was alone in the city. Dr. Larry was then given a tour of heaven by his best friend from high school, who died in a mower accident, about 500 yards from the throne room of God. His friend took him, and he was captivated by the shine on the outside that shed and glammed blessings. Dr. Larry was sent back to tell people that heaven is real. There is a song to sing, there is a mission or journey to take, there is a book to write. When his friend was taking him on this tour, and Sue began to cry out, his friend told him to go back, because his sister was screaming his name. So he just dropped right back down into his body. The medical staff noticed light signs. They rushed him to the hospital to stabilize him. After escaping from the death, Dr. Gary wrote a book named I Died and Went to Heaven to recount his journey. The second story is a difficult puzzle to solve after being struck by lightning, from a doctor to a composer. In 2007, artist Tony Scicorria, at the age of 57, gave his first solo performance at Sonata Adult Piano Camp, Vermont State, US. There, he played Chopin's music and Lightning Sonata composed by himself. He became famous throughout the United States as a spontaneous musical genius. After an incident of being struck by lightning in 1994 from a famous surgeon who knew no musical theory at all, he suddenly developed a strong passion for music and was able to play and compose classic works. Before 1994, Tony was an orthopedic surgeon and chief of orthopedics at Chenango Memorial Hospital in New York and clinical assistant professor of orthopedics at New York Upstate Medical University in Syracuse. In 1994, he was struck by lightning while calling his mother in a payphone in New York suburb on a family picnic. When he had just hung up the phone and sat down with one foot, a sudden bolt of lightning hit him, transmitted through the phone to his head, caused his heart to stop. He recalled seeing his body lying on the ground, surrounded by a blessed white light. Scicorria saw himself leaving his body, going through the world through a bluish white light. Tony's heart seemed to have stopped beating, but thankfully he was saved by a woman who is also an emergency nurse waiting to use the phone. He was taken to the hospital with burns to his face and legs, and he also had some memory problems. 2 weeks after being rescued, his memory problems also disappeared, but from that time, Tony suddenly developed a strong passion for classical piano music. His head was filled with melodies that seemed to come from a hazy place, the tune that kept popping up in his head. Tony believed he had received God's grace to return his life as a messenger to bring heaven's music to the earth. It is difficult to explain that as an orthopedic surgeon, he has absolutely no knowledge of music. But after being struck by lightning, he spent all his time playing and composing. He became a professional pianist who performed all over the United States and composed many beautiful pieces. Severe brain damage and miraculous recovery is the third case of the near-death experiences topic in this clip. On January 14, 1999, Mary Newell, an American orthopedic surgeon with her husband and a few friends rode in the Los Rios area, Chile. While rolling near a waterfall about 4 meters high, Mary suddenly had a feeling that something was wrong. Looking down at the falls, she saw a deep whalebone, and the accident struck in an instant. The pow hit the rock, caused the boat to capsize, sank Mary into the water. In that moment, she felt pain all over her body, broken ribs in her body, and death very close. Suddenly, in front of her appeared aurora, a brilliance, and an archway. In front of Mary's eyes are her deceased relatives and friends. They say that she couldn't die because there were things she hadn't finished yet. The strange thing is that despite being submerged in water for 30 minutes with no oxygen, Mary still survived when found. She suffered severe external trauma, but did not have any brain damage. Just a few months after the accident, her health has completely recovered. In the West, science is seen as the guide of civilization, But now, scientists have taken a more serious look at the human experience after death. In an immaterial and visible world, most Eastern philosophical traditions appreciate the importance of death awareness to a good life. The greatest philosopher of the age, Siddhartha Gautama, also known as the Buddha, he recognized desire as the cause of our suffering and advised us not to get too attached to mundane pleasure. Focus on more important things such as loving others, developing peace of mind, and living in the moment. The last thing which the Buddha said to his followers was, impermanence is apparent in all things. Be diligent in practicing that in a way to escape our human suffering. Finally, the awareness of the death in the ratio limited of human life enough for us to surrender and accept passively. Let's try and do what we want. Everyone only has one life to live. Let's live it meaningfully. Thank you for watching. If it is interesting and useful, please don't forget to like and subscribe to more channel so that more can share more interesting information for you.